Good day, everyone. I'm Erica Vergara Palogan, the next reporter of our group. So, for now, let's proceed to my topic, which is reflex theory. Reflex theory are movements controlled by stimulus response. Reflexes are the basis for the movement. Reflexes are combined into action that create behavior and were the building blocks of complex behavior. For example, if you put your hand on the hot stove, a reflex causes you to immediately remove your hand before, hey, this is heat, message even gets to your brain. Other protective reflexes are blinking when something flies toward your eyes or raising your arm if a ball thrown your way. So let's proceed the basic structure of a reflex. We have a receptor, transducer, and effector. So they have a picture on the right side, which is the receptors receive the message from external environment and the muscles or effector responses against the stimulus. Sensory receptors, only a minority of the nerve's fibers supplying a muscle are ordinary motor fibers that actually make it contract. The rest are either afferent sensory fibers telling the central nervous system what the muscle is doing, or specialized motor fibers regulating the behavior of the sensory nerves endings. Reflex chaining is a complex movement area sequence of reflex elicited together. According to Charles Sherrington, early 90s, complex behavior movements is controlled by a series of chain reflexes. It uses sensory input to control motor output, stimulate good reflexes, inhibit undesirable or primitive reflexes. A stimulus provokes a response, which is a transform into the stimulus of next response. The development of the stimulus response theory, variation of which long provided the dominant account of conditioning. One version of the stimulus response theory suggested that the mere occurrence of a new response to a given stimulus. The simple type of response is a direct one-to-one stimulus response reaction. A change in the environment and a stimulus. The reaction of the organism to it is the response. Reflex action of the many kinds of neural activity, there is one simple kind in which stimulus leads to an immediate action. This is reflex activity. The word reflex, from Latin reflexus and reflection, was introduced into biology by a 19th century English neurologist.
So, good day. Let's proceed to my topic, which is limitation of reflex theory. Unable to explain. So, number one, spontaneous and voluntary movements. Reflex cannot be considered basic unit of behavior as reflex must be activated by an outside agent. Number two, movement can occur without a sensory stimulus. Recent research shown that animals can move in a relative coordinated fashion in absence of sensory input. Okay, number three, fast sequential movements. Example, typing as a sequence of movement to rapidly to allow for sensory for feedback from the preceding movements to trigger the next. And number four, a single stimulus can trigger various responses which depend on context and deciding commands. For example, we can override reflexes to achieve a goal. Example, withdrawal of the hand in fire, and when your child in fire, you may override reflexive withdrawal to pull the child. So, number five, we have novel movements can be carried out as a novel movement put together a combination of stimuli and responses. For example, violinists learned rules for playing the piece and applied them to a new situation. So let's proceed to a clinical implication. We have number one, we have clinical strategies which designed to test reflex Reflexes should allow therapists to predict the function. Number two, passion movement behavior will be interpreted in terms of presence or absence of controlling reflexes. Number three, retaining of motor control for functional skills would focus on enhancing or reducing the effective of various reflexes during motor task. Example of this, facilitating or inhibiting reflexes and or reducing hypertonicity. That's all. Thank you.